The Kabbalists tell us that all of time is broken into three. There is the time before Mashiach comes, there is the time when Mashiach comes, and there is the time after Mashiach comes. Yaakov Avinu represents the Galuta, represents the struggles, trials, and travails of life as we know it. Yaakov Avinu and his wives had a very simple relationship. Yaakov said, we're going, and they said, fine. That's what the Bible says. He had 4 wives. Nobody fought with him. Whatever Yaakov said, no problem. This represents the time before Mashiach comes. Yitzchak and Rivka, going backwards, the second patriarch and matriarch, represent the time when Mashiach is coming. Yitzchak and Rivka were always fighting. In a good way. Everybody wanted to do the right thing. When they didn't have children, it says, Vayeter Yitzchak v'noich achishte. Yitzchak davened side by side with his wife. 2 tzaddikim davening. Yitzchak said Esav is right. Rivka said Yaakov is right. They fought over the 2 sons. Rivka wins, of course, in the end. This, the Kabbalists say, represents the time when Mashiach is coming. Avraham Avinu and Sarah represent the time after Mashiach comes. And after Mashiach comes, it says, Nekeva T'Seviv Gever, that the feminine will surround and be supreme over the male. Eshet Chayil Ateret Baila. The woman of valor becomes the glory, the crown of her husband. And so the Gemara tells us in Bava Basra that Bana'ah had a vision and he saw Avraham and Sarah. And he saw that Avraham and Sarah were embracing, but Sarah was a head taller than Avraham Avinu. And Sarah is looking down at Avraham's head. And the Kabbalists write about this. She was looking down at his head and she was removing his lice. Everything has mystical meanings. The mystical meaning of removing the lice, this is how Sarah tried to stop the forces, the parasitical forces that were draining Avraham Avinu of his natural vitality. Avraham Avinu had a son named Yishmael, and he had Bnei Keturah. He had these parasitical forces that were sucking away the forces of vitality from Avraham Avinu. What did Sarah Imenu do? Sarah said, out he goes. She kicked out Hagar and Yishmael. Said, no, not in this house. And Avraham says, I can't throw people. Everybody gets, everybody can have. And God says, no. You listen to Sarah, because she's a greater prophetess. So who dictates with Avraham and Sarah? Sarah Imenu dictates to Avraham. There was a time when women in the world, whether it was for chauvinistic reasons or not, the woman was always following what her husband said. That's the way things used to be in the ancient world. That was. We are living in the time of Mashiach. Mashiach is coming. He's been coming for quite some time now. It's written that every single 1,000 years, King David writes, represents a day. We are currently in the 6th day, because the Hebrew year is 5,765. That means in a short 245 years, the 6th day will come to a close, and the 7th millennium comes ushered in. The 7th millennium represents the 7th day. 6 days a week we work. The 7th day is Shabbos. Shabbos begins, its aura descends upon the week Friday afternoon, specifically in the last quarter of Friday. That means once we pass the year of 5,750, we already passed into the final quarter. And from that time and onward, the Rebbe started changing his tone and speaking about Mashiach's coming as being imminent. Already 250 years before that, with the advent of the Hasidic movement, we started hearing about a world that was going to change. Along with the world that was changing spiritually and mystically, the world was changing technologically. With the explosion of the wisdom of Kabbalah and the wisdom of mysticism, with the opening up of the heavens came the opening of the earth. As the Zohar predicted that in the 6th millennium, the 6th half, that which says about Noach, Arubayis Hashamayim Niftechu, says the Zohar that the windows of the heaven will open. This refers to Torah knowledge. and that the vaults of the earth will open up. Niftichu Tahim Rabba, this refers to natural sciences. So the world began to hurtle at incredible speed. The world began to change in an unprecedented way. The technological revolution that the world has seen in the last 250 years is unprecedented. As is the revolution within Judaism, the spiritual revolution. And along with that spiritual revolution, this is all a precursor to Mashiach's coming. Along with that spiritual revolution came the modern feminist movement. Where did it come from? Nothing happens by itself. The modern feminist movement, or the feminist revolution, was A, against chauvinistic behavior, but B, it made a change in Torah of truth. The Torah is truth. But there was a time a woman didn't study Torah, or very few women studied Torah. Rashi's daughters were scholars. Alter Rebbe taught his daughters Hasidus. It was rare. But at the turn of the century, schools began to spring up all across Europe and in the Sephardic world, schools that taught Torah to women. The change is taking place. We are now living in the era of Yitzchak and Rivka. We're now living in the time when Mashiach is coming. The world that was. You know why there's so many divorces today? You know why the world is so unbalanced today? Because there's a confusion of roles. For centuries, for millennia, everybody knew what they had to do, and there was no questioning. When everybody does the job, everything's fine. Today, the whole world is in a state of confusion. Because everybody's trying to clarify who they are. You hear the story of the guy who was afraid to go into the shower in the gym. Because, he's not wearing his clothes. You want to know who he is. Somebody told him, tie a red string around your big toe when you go in there and you'll know who you are. So he ties a red string and he's lathering in the shower. But, there's hot water and lots of soap. The string unravels. And the next guy gets into the shower and the string ends up on his toe. They're standing there in the dressing room, in the locker room getting dressed. The guy looks down. He says, they got this mirror. He says, I know who you are, but who am I? People don't know who they are anymore today. We have a world that's very confused. We have a world that lacks direction. The world has changed. The examples of yesteryear don't hold for today. And that's because the change in woman's standing reflects the change that is taking place cosmically. Because when Mashiach will come, Nekeva to save his Gever. And that's when we'll reach the time when Sarah Imenu gives the direction to Avraham Avinu. So the beginning is wedged in the end. And the simplicity of God's essence is reflected within a feminine soul. And that simplicity, which ultimately the world will reach, will be just like in the beginning. 6 days of creation, the last thing that was created was, on the sixth day, the woman. The last thing that will be created before the world goes into its new autopilot for eternity is a feminine world. A feminine world means a world that is beautiful and a world that is stable. And that is the world that we are evolving towards.